Good morning, everyone. It's your boy K Rob, the Human Sports Encyclopedia, recapping this weekend's everything that took place in the world of sports. As you can see, yeah, I just got off work. I'm very, very tired, but I promise you all the goods. We're gonna bring them to you best we can. Starting off with college football because college football was batty, and of course it had to be stupid right before we got into Thanksgiving. So let's take a look at our brand new top 25 and let's take a look from the bottom. Of course, hey, there's my Mizzou Tigers hanging in there at 24. Got the win against Mississippi State. Army fell 7 spots. I'm thankful to see that they're still in the rankings, even though Notre Dame absolutely wiped the floor, ended their perfect season. Coach Prime in Colorado fell to 23, 7 spots. So Army and Colorado were the biggest fallers this week in the AP poll as they lost to Kansas. And I know people were saying, "Oh my God, how do they lose to Kansas? Kansas was 4-6." Kansas was projected to win the Big 12 by a lot of experts this year. I feel they're finally just playing up to their potential and they're finishing opponents. The Kansas has 5 one-possession losses. Illinois moved up 2 spots. They're having a fine year. Shout out to Brett Bielema and Luke Altmaier and those guys. Big win against Rutgers. UNLV is hot on the tails of number 11 there in the Mountain West. So the Rebels are handling their business this year. They're at 21. A&M should not have lost that game. Honestly, they shouldn't have been in that game against Auburn to begin with. However, losing the way they did 4 overtimes on a drop Philly special is pain. They fall to 20. Night 15 through 19, BYU fell after nearly beating Arizona State, and that game was insane. If you haven't seen the finish to BYU Arizona State, do check it out. Word to the wise fans: don't storm the field until the clock says zero. Same goes for Oklahoma. Tulane making a hard charge in the American Conference right now. They're second in line behind Boise State for a shot at that Group of Five playoff spot, and I would love to see Tulane get in there. They'd have to win the American Conference championship. Iowa State is not out of it in the Big 10 or the Big 12, so they're 9-2, trailing Arizona State right now in the polls. However, it's a three-horse race there for the Big 12 championship game. They're at 17. South Carolina is the scariest 8-3 team I think in college football right now. They handled their business against Citadel, getting ready for the Palmetto rivalry game with Clemson. Ole Miss, boy, I think y'all are done. Hop aboard the Lang train because it's going off the rails. Big loss at the Swamp to Florida. And shout out to Billy Napier, DJ Lagway, and Florida. Now they are bowl eligible after everyone wrote them off this year. One of the best surprises of the season is at 14, and that's the Arizona State Sun Devils. Like I said, that game was absolutely crazy. But the Arizona State's having a magnificent season. If they win their rivalry game against Arizona, I think they're going to the Big 12 championship game. It's still weird to say Arizona State and Big 12, but that's the lay of FBS right now. What you gonna do? And oh boy, look at this right here. Alabama. Now, not all of their fans are crashing out. I've seen some videos where they've just been acting like a whole horse's butt. But let me tell you something. This right here, that should be it. That should absolutely be it. Now, I know good and well they're right on the cusp. We haven't seen the CFP rankings yet, but they're right on the cusp of that cutoff line at 12, which right now Clemson holds. And they're one of three ACC teams between 8 and 12. But something tells me that there are folks that still are just wanting to get any reason to squeeze them in. So if you're not a fan of Alabama, you're rooting for Auburn this week. Clemson at 12, they have a big one with South Carolina. That's going to be a hot game. But Clemson is going to be looking to see what happens between Miami and SMU. They don't play each other, but it's going to be very, very big. And we'll take a look at this week's schedule. Now we're getting close to the top 10. Of course, 11 Boise State, Ashton Jeanty had a really close game with 2-8 Wyoming, but they were able to get the dub. And then here's college football's darlings, Indiana. Their special team shot them in the foot bad. And Ohio State's blitzing whooped their butt, but still, Kurt Signetti, Curtis Rourke, all those guys, they're still doing their thing, and they're hanging in at 10. I think all they've got to do is beat Purdue. Purdue is 1-10. It's a big rivalry game, but I think Indiana's going to be able to handle that business, and they'll be in the college football playoff. This right here is beautiful to see. The irony that SMU is allowed to pay players now when when their university was the poster child for what not to do, and now everybody can do it legally. But the Pony Express is back in a new form. They're 10-1 on track to play Miami for the ACC championship. Think about this. Miami has been in the ACC now for 20 years and they haven't won an ACC championship. SMU is in the conference their first year. Now they're on the verge of doing it. Speaking of the Hurricanes sitting at number 8, they all they got to do is maintain course and then they will likely run into SMU for that championship. And then we get in some SEC fun. The conference that is eating itself. Number 7, Tennessee. Um, Again, if you don't want to see Tennessee in there, you're rooting for Vanderbilt. As I think if Vanderbilt knocks Tennessee out or beats them this Saturday, they're done. And then it's Georgia and Texas potentially for the SEC championship. However, Texas A&M, I do believe would knock Texas out if they beat them because of a tiebreaker with conference record because they'll both have two conference losses and A&M will have beaten Texas if that happens. Georgia has its final, I believe, against Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech's had themselves a fine season. I think they'd love nothing more than to alter Georgia's course a little bit. Fifth ranked Notre Dame, as we get to the top five, Irish handled their business, ending Army's perfect season. All they got to do, I believe, is take care of USC. USC is just scraping by this year. Penn State, number 4. They escaped Minnesota Saturday night. That was a heck of a game. If you didn't see the highlights, do go check them out. But they have an inline track right now to play Oregon for the Big Ten championship, provided that Ohio State loses to Michigan. Texas, I think all they've got to do is beat Texas A&M, and they're in. Even if not, I think they're going to be good to make the playoff. Ohio State's got the big game this weekend against Michigan. A Michigan win would put Penn State in the Big Ten championship game, provided that they win as well. And Oregon is just rolling. They're the undisputed number 1 right now. So that's what we got, and we can go ahead and get this week's schedule pulled up as well. So this is one to keep an eye out for, as I mentioned, for the group of 5. Tulane hosting Memphis. Tulane's a 2-touchdown favorite, but at the same time, Memphis no slouch, especially with that offense and quarterback Seth Hennigan. He's got a lot of weapons there. Boise State and Oregon State. Oregon State is technically the winner of the Pac-12 this year. That's a crazy statement given the nature of the Pac-12, but they are winners of the Pac-12. Oregon State or Boise State can't lose the rest of the way. They're almost 3-touchdown favorites. Colorado's got Oklahoma State, who is probably the biggest underachiever in the country this year. That's an 11 a.m. kickoff. Coach Prime and Colorado is projected to win. You have the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss, I think they're cooked, but they should beat Mississippi State. I think it would be hilarious if they lost to them. This is a trap. Georgia Tech, that's the old rivalry. Clean old-fashioned hate. That's an absolute trap game. If Georgia Tech wins, don't be surprised. Take it from me. Michigan, Ohio State, it's a 3-touchdown line for the Buckeyes. They're at home. I expect them to win. However, if Michigan, who basically doesn't have a quarterback, somehow does, don't be shocked. They can keep that game low scoring. They can really run the football, and Ohio State has proven to be vulnerable against the run this year. Tennessee, Vanderbilt, that's a 10.5-point line at Nashville. You know what? Give me Pimpin' Vandy. If you know SEC shorts, you know, but you give me Pimpin' Vandy to cause more chaos. They did it once. Let's see them do it again. South Carolina, Clemson 2.5 at home. I think that game's going to be super physical. Those two schools never like each other. South Carolina has the nastiest pass rush in the country. Ask Brady Cook about it. And I honestly I'm going to take South Carolina as a team. I think they're going to go win that game. And keep an eye out and watch for next year. Freshman quarterback Lenora Sellers. Army against UTSA. Army's a touchdown favorite. I still think they'll win at home, and they want to win out going into Army-Navy. This is a game I'm looking forward to. Shout out to my buddy Scott in our fantasy football league. He's an Illinois alum. They beat Northwestern. They finished with 9 wins. Illinois hasn't had a 9-win season since 2007. Shout out to Juice Williams. Let's take a look at other key matchups we've got here. Of course, my beloved A-State Red Wolves. Shout out to Coach Butch Jones. They're now 7-4 with a home win on Senior Day. Can finish 8-4. Most wins we've had, I think, probably since 2017. I want to say. Penn State should handle Maryland. 3.5 touchdowns. Notre Dame gets the touchdown at the Coliseum. Iron Bowl, Alabama 11.5. Listen, the game is not in Jordan Hare, so I don't think any crazy mess is going to happen. But it is the Iron Bowl. You just don't know. I think this game could be a trap. Syracuse is a very solid team. Colin McCord's a good quarterback. I know he had that 5 interception game against Pitt, but he's rebounded nicely. Miami better not play around. They played around with Duke for a good while and could have lost that game too. SMU Cal. Cal can put some points on the board, but I think SMU will be too much. Arizona State, they win their game. I think they're in the Big 12 title game. Mizzou taking on the Hogs. We're only a 3.5 point favorite. I do worry a bit, but I think we'll handle our business and we'll finish the regular season 9-3. And let's see any other big matchups. Indiana has the 6 o'clock against Purdue. They win, they're in. Oklahoma LSU. That's a matchup I thought that would have a lot more prestige going into the season. However, there we are, and they're both I think 6-5. Ouch. And there's the Lone Star Showdown. Honestly, I think that's where College Game Day should go, but I know they're going to be at the Horseshoe again, most likely. I would much prefer they go to College Station. A&M can ruin everything for Texas with a win, and they're not trying to lose the Lone Star Showdown. Texas is a touchdown favorite in that one. That's college football, guys. We're going to switch over to the NFL. Of course, Thursday night football. That was beautiful. Say what you want about Jameis Winston, but I think he's exactly what the Cleveland Browns need. It may not always be pretty. That dude can inspire some guys like nobody's business, and they beat the Steelers. So shout out to Stefanski. Um, Man, that hurt. I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm happy with where my Rams are rebuilding. I think we have a decent trajectory right now. But no matter what, Saquon Barkley is doing this to your team. I don't care how good you are, you ain't winning. 255. That man basically ran up in our house and took his muddy boots and kicked him on our couch and said, "What you gonna do about it?" Ain't nothing you can do. So we're 5-6. Eagles are running away 9-2. Looks like they're now the class of the NFC East. Vikings, Bears. Again, I couldn't be a Bears fan. I don't know how y'all do it. Shout out to those who are. I have friends that are. I don't know how y'all do it. Pain, just pain. Lewis lost in overtime to the Minnesota Vikings, who are now 9-2. But I still worry: are they a legit 9-2? I think they're better than the team that went 13-4, but still had a negative point differential. But I don't know. I don't know. Meanwhile, what I do know, my Super Bowl pick just keeps on rolling. Detroit Lions, very workmanlike, 24-6 win over the Indianapolis Colts. They go to 10-1. Look at that, 6-0 on the road. And they got Thanksgiving coming up this week. They've lost their last 7 Thanksgiving games. I guarantee you, Detroit's looking to handle some business. The Miami Dolphins, now that they have Tua back, they got their mojo going. Tua 317 yards, 4 tutties. Jalen Waddle 8 for 144, and the score handled the Patriots 34-15. The New York Giants have no legs. They barely have a football team right now. 30-7 loss, just coming off of releasing Daniel Jones. Tommy DeVito was in there, and it just didn't matter. Bucks roll 30-7. This game was absolutely insane, and honestly, as bad as the Dallas Cowboys are, the way that fourth quarter went, and you see it, 41 fourth quarter points combined between them and the Commanders. The way that game ended is about the only way Dallas can win games right now, because they're just not winning straight up. Our dropped kickoff return, Cavante Turpin takes it back 98 yards. Jaden Daniels throws an 86-yard touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin. Washington misses the extra point, then proceeds to have an onside kick returned 43 yards for touchdown. Can't make it up. Dallas wins. Womp womp. Chiefs escape Carolina. The Carolina Panthers gave the Chiefs their best shot. And shout out to Carolina. Bryce Young looked a lot better. They looked like a more focused football team. Casey finds a way to get it done again. Last second field goal. Like we haven't heard that before. Make this one make sense. Will Levis gets sacked 7 times in the first half, and the Houston Texans crap their pants against the Titans. Shout out to Will Levis because he made big plays when he was able to stand up. 18-24 for 278. Tony Pollard 24 for 119. The big key was the fact that the Texans, with Joe Mixon, couldn't run the ball to save their life. So shout out to the Tennessee Titans in the battle of New Houston versus Old Houston. Denver Broncos, got to give it up to the Broncos at a solid 7-5 because Bo Nix is really, really finding his course, and he's gotten his legs going. So shout out to them, and the Raiders are just in complete tank mode. Now Gardner Minshew has a broken collarbone. Your leader of the tank commander is Desmond Ritter, tank for Travis Hunter. And call me tomorrow. Packers absolutely hammered the battered 49ers 38 to 10. Brandon Allen started for Brock Purdy. There was no Silverback Williams, no Nick Bosa, and it was no problem for Green Bay. Josh Jacobs handled his business. 3 rushing touchdowns on the day. Green Bay is 8-3, and I don't think they're being talked about enough. And speaking of talking, nobody talking about them. Seattle beats the Cardinals 16-6 in a battle for first in the NFC West. No division defines the term mid more than the NFC West. Seattle wins. There was a big pick six by Kobe Bryant that really put the game away. So the Cardinals now are in a tie with Seattle leads the NFC West by tiebreaker. Breaking down last night, we only had one game in the NHL last night. Yes, the former Arizona Coyotes Utah Hockey Club now lost 3-2 to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are now rolling 13-6-2. Mitch Marner, 2 goals. Willie Nylander, a goal and an assist. And Logan Cooley was a third star for Utah. We only had one game on the docket. Also, a special congratulations goes out to Sid the Kid. Became the 21st member of the 600 goal club. And he reached that against the Utah Hockey Club Saturday night in a 6-1 loss. The Penguins are really struggling this year, but Sid just continues to be great. And there is absolutely no surprise there. Of course, Ovechkin, the only other active player with 600 goals. And at the rate he's going, and I know he's on IR right now, but I do think Ovechkin's going to break the all-time record held by Gretzky. A couple other nuggets of news before we get, one more before we get to the Blues. And another congratulations goes out to Jumbo Joe Thornton. Not the biggest fan of a lot of St. Louis Blues fans if you ask him about David Perron. However, Joe Thornton had a phenomenal career, and mainly when he got traded to the San Jose Sharks in 2005, as he got his number retired by the franchise. And that beard, gotta say, it's a beauty. He spent 13 seasons with the Sharks. As I said, he was traded in 2005 from the Boston Bruins, and one of the most lopsided trades I've ever seen. He went on to record 92 assists after being traded to the Sharks in 2005, and he won the MVP. Didn't win that Stanley Cup. He got to the finals once with the Sharks in 2016, which, like, again, was wonderful news, and I couldn't be more thankful to have gotten to see the guy play, and I thought that was just absolutely wonderful. We'll wrap things up here, and we'll go ahead and pull up the big story that came through right here, and that is the St. Louis Blues, my St. Louis Blues, as you can kind of see back there, firing head coach Drew Bannister. He didn't even make it 365 days as the head coach of the Blues. He is out, and the recently fired Jim Montgomery from the Boston Bruins is now the Blues' new bench boss. And also, before I get into that, the Boston Bruins, since 2011, have now fired 3 Jack Adams award-winning head coaches. They fired Claude Julien, who not only that, won them a Stanley Cup in 2011, fired Bruce Cassidy, who immediately won a Stanley Cup in Vegas, and now they fire the man who managed the team that won the most games and had the most points in the regular season in NHL history. They got a real boys club problem there. Uh, Blues general manager Doug Armstrong took no time and in handing over the reins to Armstrong or to and over to Jim Montgomery, who's a former Blues assistant. Drew Bannister got promoted from coaching the Springfield Thunderbirds of the AHL, and he had them on a solid run. They won 30 of their last 54 games going down the stretch and just missed out on the playoffs. If they were in the Eastern Conference last year, they would have made it. And the Blues are 30th in goals scored in the NHL right now. Or they're 29th in goals scored at 2.36, and that would be low in the clutch and grab era. 2.36 ain't doing jack. And especially nowadays where almost every team's averaging 3 goals a game, like it's the 80s. Like, this is pathetic. So Montgomery's got a bit of a mountain to climb here with this roster, and we have a very deep prospect pool. And we got some strong forwards that are coming through. We got one in the AHL, and then we've got another kid in at the University of Minnesota right now who's a big time sniper, and God knows we need goal scorers. Um, So these are some positive points. I do remember Montgomery also coaching the Dallas Stars, and they were outstanding defensively. We faced them in 2019 in the Western Conference semifinals. Of course, that was the famous Pat Maroon Game 7 goal. Um, Hopefully, he's able to get things going and set the tone for culture and better on ice play, because I don't think because goaltending's not an issue. Defensive personnel and spots is not an issue, but we've got to get this entire team to buy in. Um, the Bruins fired him after an 8-9-3 start, but my question is, what in the world did Boston expect? You have a team that has no center depth, no David Krejci, he's retired. No Patrice Bergeron, he's retired. Brad Marchand is not big enough to play center. David Pasternak is an all-world winger. Charlie McAvoy is an all-world defenseman. You need more than that. But somehow he was expected to make that and turn it into chicken salad. Like, you can only get so much chicken shit to work with in terms of a roster, and he's got a real challenge here with the Blues. But I personally am excited about this signing, and he was immediately given a 5-year contract extension, or contract, not an extension. In addition to being hired, and his first task will be tonight to take on the very tough New York Rangers. That game at 6 o'clock at Madison Square Garden. That's the morning wrap up from here, the Human Sports Encyclopedia. Your boy K Rob always got you, always on time. Like, comment, subscribe, tell all your friends. I got all the sports you need, and then we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.